Welcome folks, today I'm going to show you how to pretty much fully disassemble the Backland Hunter by Crusader Arms. The only thing I'm not going to show you how to do is disassemble the gas block and take apart completely the Benelli M4 style recoil tube. Otherwise, here's what you're going to need to disassemble this. You're going to need some sort of punch to take the top and bottom receiver apart. You're going to need a smaller punch plus a hammer, preferably a plastic or brass hammer for taking apart the bolt carrier group. A little bit of extra leverage with this handle if you have one. And if you want to take apart the handguard, you're going to need a 5/32 hex bit or a number 4 hex bit. I'm just going to use my fat wrench here with a 5/32. And last but not least, you'll need a hex bit in 7/32 if you want to take apart the stock. I think a 5.5 hex bit is probably the right size, but I'm just going to use a 5/32 because that's what I have. So the first thing we're going to have to do is attack this pin here, which holds together the top and bottom receiver. It should come apart fairly easily, and if it's not, then you might have to actually push the two pieces together so that the hole aligns properly. So I'm going to do that here, and it should come through very easily. And then with your other hand, or when you turn it around, you should be able to just pull it apart, and then the two sides should come apart like that. Now if you want to take apart your trigger group, you've got this pin here. You should be able to just use your fingernails, get underneath there, pull that apart. And then your trigger group, you can just push up like that, and it comes out. Easy as pie. And to put the trigger assembly back into the lower receiver, you'll notice that little bit right there is going to fit inside of this little bite right there. Sorry, the camera's not focusing great, but it's going to slide inside of there. So we're going to start with the lower receiver like this. We're going to grab our trigger guard. We're going to install it under here. And then we'll just make sure that that slides into place, and there we go, we're good there. We'll line up those two holes right there like that, and then on this side is where we're going to reinstall the pin. You can install it on the other side if you want, but the problem is you didn't have that click there. It's not going to stay locked into place. If you rapid fire this thing, it's probably going to walk itself out. So we put it on the right side of the receiver there, just like that. Now you can go ahead and remove T-bar and the bolt carrier group itself. Those come up very easily. These notches right here align with the notches on the T-bar and the inner upper receiver there. You just pull those apart. Now for the bolt carrier group, you've got a cotter pin here, which holds the firing pin in place. That's that silver bit right there. And then you also have a little pin right here. That is the rat tail retaining pin that holds this bit in place. You can see on this side I grinded it down a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first things first, you're going to have to take out that rat tail retaining pin. So I've got my punch here. I'm just going to go in there and hammer it out. I'm going to do it on the edge here so that I don't hammer it into the desk. And when that's loose, you could just go ahead and pull it out from this side, and the rat tail will come apart. Now I'm just going to use that same punch that I used to remove that cotter pin. And now the firing pin should fall right out. Now for the bolt assembly itself, you're going to go ahead and turn this bad boy, and it should come right out. If it's not, I might have to give it a little bit of help here and pull it out with my fingers. No? Okay, come on. There we go. Should fall right out. And now the bolt comes right out. So you can go ahead and clean that up with your favorite cleaning products, wipe it down, and when you're ready to put it back together, you grab these two pieces, slide the bolt back in, and you're going to want to make sure that the extractor pin is, if you're facing it, looking at it this way, the extractor pin is at the bottom right, and that bit there, I can't remember what it's called, it's at the top left, right? So then you're going to have that hole right there, you can see, lined up right there. Go ahead and grab that pin, put it back in, bam, and then you're going to turn it that way. Now you can go ahead and put the firing pin back in there. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Go ahead and put the cotter pin back in. So this could be a little tricky, but I'm going to show you a trick that I found. So first of all, make sure those two prongs get into that hole. And now you're going to look at it from this side. I'm going to try to do this through the camera, but you'll notice, watch the top pin there, the top prong. As soon as that gets into the crease, you're going to go ahead and apply downward pressure like this, and that should allow you to slide. Like I said, hard to do through the camera, but once you get that top prong in, apply downward pressure, and you should be able to just slide it right in there. No big deal. And it doesn't really matter what the orientation of the pin is there, but there you go. Now, this is a tricky bit, putting the rat tail back in. So you're going to try your very best from this angle, opposite of the cotter pin. You're going to try and line that up, right? You can see that there. You want to line it up like that. And then you're going to line up that retaining pin. You see how there's a cutout here? There's silver. Like I said, I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. But this cutout here is meant to go underneath the firing pin. So the firing pin is above this hole. It's running along this area right here. So you want to make sure that that cutout goes and fits underneath that firing pin. So that's the tricky bit. We're going to put the rat tail back in. We're going to try to line that up. And then we're going to add that firing pin in the proper orientation back into that spot. It might take a little bit of wiggling, it might take a little bit of finagling, but you'll get there. Make sure that that is in the right orientation. And there we go. Now we just need to hammer it from this side to get it to stay back in place. So I'm just going to put that down. I'm going to grab my punch and I'm going to line that up. And then I'm just going to go to town and get that back into place. Make sure that's in there good. Now we'll take one more peek and make sure that that is lined up properly the way that it should be. It's not perfect, but it's cut out where it should be. So we should be good to go. And we can test that by moving the bolt back and forth a little bit. And we can make fully sure that that's properly reinstalled by putting everything back together. So I'm going to show you that now, and then we'll take apart the handguard. So to put everything back together, fairly simple. We're going to start with the T-bar and the upper receiver. Make sure that those little bits on the handle line up with the bits on the top receiver there. And then you can go ahead, don't push it in all the way, push it in just a little bit. And then here's the thing, this will not go back into the upper receiver if the bolt is in. You have to make sure that it is pulled out, and now you can line up that the gas receiver there, I can't remember what it's called. You line that up with the inside slot on the T-bar there. You go ahead and slide that back in, and as you can see, everything should slide in just like that. Okay, now for putting both receivers back together, we're going to do two things. We're going to first align this rat tail with the buffer tube itself, and then we'll straighten out the top receiver so that these two prongs fit into these two holes right there. So first things first, grab that rat tail, push it up into the buffer tube like that, and then we'll go ahead and line up those two prongs. It does take a little bit of work, and then you're just going to push them together like that. Now I'm going to put the this buttstock on my leg here while I hold the two together. With this hand, I'm pulling this way, and I'm just going to actually flip it this way, and there's that pin that we need to push in. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. If it doesn't go in, you're not pulling it together hard enough. So you need to really make sure you're pulling them together before you do that. If it's not going in smoothly. It should go in smoothly, but if it's not, like I said, you really need to force the two pieces together. So that's how you do that. Now we're going to make sure we put the bolt carrier group back together properly by just doing a couple of cycles on the action. So we're going to go ahead and pull it back. Let it go. Yeah, I just put this thing on last night, and it doesn't make it easy to get to the T-bar there, but we'll just cycle it a couple of times, and we'll take it back apart. Now, if you're having any issues at all with this bolt carrier group assembly, if it's not smooth like this after you cycle the action a few times, you need to check that rat tail retaining pin, because if it twists, right? If you pretend that this Allen key is that pin and this bit right here is the cutout for the firing pin, we're looking at it like this. If that pin twists like that or like that, it's going to dig into the firing pin and cause you issues, and it's going to stop this from moving smoothly. So if you notice that that pin, that cutout, is moved at all in either of these directions, that's going to chew into the firing pin. That's going to cause you major issues. So I'm going to upload another video showing you what I did to fix that, because this used to be hell to deal with, man. It used to be horrible to deal with. But now I think it's going to be reliable. So like I said, I'll upload a video on that. But that's that. So it's pretty simple to put back together. Yeah, see, it's not going, so I got to really make sure it's held together. Bam. Switch it around this way. And these are the screws here that we need to worry about. Pretty much it. You just take those apart, handguard comes off. Let's go ahead and loosen all these up. Should be good to just remove her now. Yeah, okay. So you're going to want to be careful, obviously, when you take apart the handguard. So slide that back together. I'm going to take out those Allen keys so I don't lose them, or Allen screws. And now when you're taking apart the handguard, be careful of the gas tube and, yeah, the gas block, I guess, and the tip of the muzzle there. But basically, I find it easier to hold it vertically while you take it apart, but for camera, I'm obviously just going to do it this way. So you just want to be careful while you're taking that apart and just basically pull the two pieces apart. There you go. So there's your handguard removed. And like I said, I'm not going to show you how to disassemble the gas block, the gas tube. I forgot to mention, but I'm not going to show you how to disassemble the barrel either. Why? Because I'm not going to mess with this thing more than I really have to until I really have to. So if you guys really want to do that, there are videos out there that are already uploaded that you can find on how to remove an AR-15 barrel. Should work the exact same way. How to remove an AR-15 gas block, gas system, that type of thing. It should be already uploaded on YouTube or somewhere else on the internet for you to find. But anyways, once you're done with this, you know, what you want to do is you want to make sure this is the bit that goes back onto here. You want to make sure this is nice and lubricated. You can use your favorite grease. I like to use Super Lube. You can use your favorite oil. This is just regular mineral oil from the drugstore. Or you can use whatever favorite oil that you have. I've got a couple of G96 here. G96 is good stuff. But for this here, honestly, I would prefer going with a grease or an actual standalone oil. So I'm not going to clean it up here, but when you're done doing your cleaning and stuff, make sure that this bit is either greased or oiled before you reinstall it. Trust me, you're going to save yourself a huge headache in the future if you ever want to take that apart again. So we'll just go ahead and put everything back together here. Very easy. Everything just basically slips back into place. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're putting it in the right orientation. You see how the gas block fits inside with the Picatinny rail up top. So we'll just put that back where it needs to be. And we will begin to reinsert the screws here. They're all the same size, so it doesn't matter which one you put in first. Okay, they're all in there. I'm going to get them until they're snug and then back them off a quarter turn. And then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead, and because I'm OCD, I want to make sure that this is perfectly aligned. So you can kind of see that there's a little bit of an overlap between the handguard and the top receiver. But for me, I'm just going to make sure that's perfectly symmetrical there. And I'm going to get this started, get one snug, and I'm going to make sure that that's still aligned the way I like it to be. So I'm going to snug that up. Okay, we're good. We'll go ahead and snug up the other two. You can't see what I'm doing here, so I'll flip it this way. We're good now. They're all good and snug. Now, I am set to just about 20 inch-pounds on my fat wrench here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do each of these one by one until they click. Now they've all clicked once. Now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that they each have 3 clicks on them. Okay. And just one more for good measure. Yeah, they're still turning a little bit. But like I said, you don't need to be higher than 20 inch-pounds, so that's fine. That's good right there. And before I forget, I got to show you guys how to take the stock off too. So the Backland Hunter comes with a plastic strap retainer here, and it's just junk. It broke out of the box, so I just replaced it with a metal swivel stud here that I got off Amazon. But to take that apart, I'm just going to grab a little Allen wrench here, and I'm just going to basically twist it off. Now the butt plate should just slide right off like that, and you'll see inside of here is that 7/32 hex bit. So since I don't have any easier way to do it with all my tools, I'm just going to use this 7/32 hex bit and these pliers to basically do it little by little. Now you don't want that to get too loose while you're just hanging on to the stock, so make sure you're holding on to the handguard or some other bit of the receiver. Well, you can probably just use your hands to go ahead and finish that off. If you got long piano fingers like I do, then this works great. And that comes out, and the whole thing should slide right off like that. Now be careful because there are some loose bits in here. You've got the nut and washer, as well as this plate combo. This is just some more composite plastic. But here you go. Here is the recoil tube itself. Now, like I said, I'm not going to show you how to take this apart. If you wanted to, for whatever reason, you would have to unscrew this from the rear receiver. And if you wanted to disassemble this fully, those two little holes there, you'd use a special set of pliers to remove that. And then you would take some other things apart. Anyways, just watch a video if you want to watch it. But inside of this tube, if you're ever wondering what's rattling inside of here, is this. And basically what this does, this little pin here, it sits inside of this tube. And you remember the bolt carrier group has a rat tail. That rat tail pushes into this tube. And as that rat tail comes into the tube, this pin stops the buffer system from going too far back, which would cause the bolt carrier group to slam into the back of the lower receiver here and cause damage, and that would be very bad. So if you're going to take this pin out, when you put it back together, make sure that the flat bit is facing towards the actual receiver itself, where that rounded bit is going to be facing the back of the buttstock. If you put it in the wrong way, you're going to have some issues. So just make sure that that's put back together properly. But easily, super simply, just put it back together the way it came apart. It's literally that easy. And then I'll just go ahead, slide that back in the way it's supposed to. Narrow bit is on the bottom, so I'll go ahead and put the narrow bit at the bottom. That slides in. And then this will just slide that back in to that hole there. It's a little too difficult to do with the camera, but now I'm just basically making sure that that's hand tight, or at least threaded on, right? Because you want to make sure it's not going to be cross-threaded when you put it back together. And then I'm just going to, obviously if you guys have the right bit, this is going to be way easier, but I'm basically just going to have to hand bomb this, put that in, twist it a little bit, take it out, twist it a little bit until it's nice and snug. And you don't need to go crazy with this, just make sure it's snug. And if you try to wiggle the stock back and forth that it's not wiggling, that's as far as you need to go. You just need to go until it stops wiggling. Don't do it too much. This is all just plastic, it could break. So yeah, be careful that way. But otherwise, super simple. All right, it's nice and snug. That's not moving. So we're good to go there. Simple thing. The buttstock only goes one way. It lines up with the way that it's molded, but you want to put this top tab in first. So you slide it in like that, and then just tighten that back down. Look good. Feels good. I don't know why I did this setup. I got a cheap $90 red dot for this thing, and I thought, that's not enough. I need some magnification, so I bought a 3x magnifier for it, and it's just a ridiculous setup. I should have went with an LPVO, but anyways, there you go. That is how you disassemble, reassemble your Backland Hunter. This thing can be a little temperamental sometimes, but it's a fun gun. Like when it actually works, it works great. But when it doesn't work very great. So those of you having issues with this thing, I will try to get that video up as soon as possible on how I grinded that rat tail retaining pin and some other things to get this thing to cycle smoothly and hopefully be reliable. Haven't taken it out to shoot since I fixed it, but I'm confident that it works now. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you had a better experience with this thing than I did, and you just need to figure out how to take it apart so you can clean it, because there's no owner manual for this $2,000 rifle. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.